You want to rest, but rest makes you feel guilty. You want to work, but work makes you anxious. If you're stuck in that loop, you're not lazy. You're just trapped in a system. Your brain doesn't know how to escape yet. So in this video, I'll show you exactly what's stopping you and the simple shift that breaks the loop without forcing motivation or discipline. And by the end, you'll know exactly what to do the next time you feel stuck. Not in theory, but in practice. But to escape this loop, we first need to stop mislabeling it because calling it laziness hides the real problem. We often call this feeling laziness, but that's a lie we tell ourselves. This is where 90% of people stop. They try to fix a laziness that doesn't exist. Laziness is when you're lounging on the couch completely at peace with doing nothing. But that's not you, is it? You're not peaceful. You're stressed. You're anxious. Your mind is racing with all the things you should be doing. That tension is the clue, and once you see what it's pointing to, the problem becomes solvable. Here's the pattern. We procrastinate most on the tasks that feel difficult, challenging, or stressful. The real question is, but why do we even feel so bad about them? Not because they're hard, but because they start being a test. When something feels important, it stops being a task. It becomes a test of your intelligence, your capability, your worth. That's not laziness, that's perfectionism. Not high standards, it's the fear that the result won't live up to the image in your head. So you protect the idea of perfect by never starting it, because as long as the work isn't done, it can't be judged. This looks like procrastination on the outside, but on the inside, it's self-protection. And most perfectionists would rather be potentially great than provably average. And this is the turning point, because perfectionism doesn't need more discipline. It needs a completely different strategy. This clicked for me when I saw it play out in my own life. For an entire year, I couldn't start something that mattered deeply to me. Not because I was incapable, but because it felt like my worth was on the line. I researched, I planned, I agonized, and for 12 months, I wrote nothing. Then something ordinary happened. My mother asked me for a simple favor, to write a short article for her work. She needed it by the end of the day. I sat down the afternoon and I wrote the entire thing in a single sitting. And the result? It was fluid, articulate, and most definitely effective. There were only two differences between these situations, and the second one changed everything. Let's look at the why. How could I struggle for a full year yet produce something with such ease in a single day? Here's why. When I wrote for my mother, it was simply not about my worth anymore. The crushing weight of my own judgment was gone. The task was no longer a reflection of who I was. It was simply a task to be completed. The moment I separated the task from my self-worth, the paralysis vanished. I was free to be imperfect, and in that freedom, I found my flow. Now that we know what's actually happening, fixing it doesn't require more effort. Here's the antidote that actually breaks the loop. It's not motivation, it's not discipline, it's not forcing yourself. The antidote is taking one deliberately imperfect step, writing one messy paragraph, opening the document without finishing it, posting the draft you're not proud of, working for 5 minutes, then stopping. Because the moment you act imperfectly, you break the illusion that your worth is on the line. You're no longer proving who you are, you're just doing something. And that single shift changes how your brain responds to the task. Because nothing bad happens. The world doesn't collapse, your identity stays intact, and the fear loses its grip. This is the part no one explains, and it's why most advice fails. What happens when you take action and the result isn't perfect? Most of the time, it is far better than your anxious mind predicted. But even when it isn't, you simply gather data, see what worked, see what didn't. And then, instead of labeling it a failure, you call it research. Every outcome becomes an experiment. Every attempt becomes progress. This only works if you avoid one final mistake that keeps even the smartest people stuck. Waiting to feel ready. Waiting feels responsible. And that's why it's dangerous. That's why we consume information instead of acting. Books, podcasts, planning. Believing acquiring knowledge is the same as making progress, while someone with less knowledge is getting ahead simply because they started with what they knew 6 months ago. So I must tell you a difficult truth. Reading 10 books on how to swim will never teach you what stepping into the water once will. We do this because we are afraid of uncertain outcomes. We want to feel that surge of confidence first, but here's the secret. That feeling almost never comes first. Action isn't the result of motivation, it's the cause of it. Think of it like starting a coal car. You don't wait for the engine to be warm before you turn the key. You turn the key to get it warm. You don't need to feel motivated to start. You start, and the action itself generates the momentum and the motivation to continue. This is the part that actually rewires the habit, not understanding, but doing this once. Sever the link between your output and your identity. Your worth is not on the line with every task you undertake. The post that fails does not make you a failure. The shaky first presentation does not make you incompetent. They are merely events, not verdicts. See them as data, call it research, and I want you to do one thing this week. Choose one thing you've been putting off. One small task, and I want you to deliberately, intentionally do it badly. That's right. Set out to create a glorious mess. Write a terrible first draft. Create a flawed prototype. Make a mediocre drawing. Why? Because in doing so, you will have accomplished two monumental things. You will have taken action, and action is the cause of all momentum. You will have proven to the deepest part of your psyche that the world did not end, and your worth remains entirely, completely intact. But let me be honest about the journey. The middle is ugly, and that is precisely why you stop. Starting is exciting, finishing is satisfying, but the middle is a state of identity chaos. You have left the old behind but have not yet arrived at the new. You must learn to recognize that discomfort not as failure, but as the definitive signal that you are progressing. The 4-step blueprint. And this is the 4-step blueprint that deliberately rewires your brain. 1. Recognize the real culprit. The next time you're stuck, say to yourself, this isn't laziness, this is perfectionism trying to protect me from judgment. Just naming the beast robs it of its power. 2. Sever the link. Remind yourself, my worth is not on the line here. It is just a task. 3. Embrace the glorious mess. Your only job is to start and to give yourself full permission to do it badly. The goal is action, not perfection, and if you take the action, you've already won. 4. Replace judgment with data. Once it's done, ask, what did I learn? What worked? What didn't? Call it research, not result. That's it. You don't need a million strategies. You just need this one shift. From a person who fears starting to the one who understands that an imperfect creation is far more valuable than a perfect idea stuck in your head. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something. If you have any suggestions, you can drop in the comments section. See you in the next video.